Hello and welcome to the Enterprise Talk Conversation Series, a peer knowledge resource by the CXOs for the CXOs. Now to our host, Kanika Goswami.
Hi, we welcome you to our podcast, On Stage with Enterprise Thought Leaders. My name is Kanika Goswami and I'm the managing editor of On.media's 6 B2B enterprise technology publications. We have engaging conversations with global thought leaders and industry experts, which reach over 1.3 billion business leaders worldwide. Today we speak with Katie Ralph. She's a director of solutions engineering for EMEA at SonicWall. We really great to have you with us today, Katie. Welcome to this discussion.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me on this morning.
I will give a short introduction to you, and please jump in if I'm, missing out something.
Sure.
Katie is an industry recognized thought leader and event speaker, people-focused and passionate cyber evangelist with a strong technical foundation. Previously named a top 10 women in cyber winner, she's held positions as a dedicated specialist in cyber, in addition to life as both a vendor and a customer. Her profession has spanned investigation, sales engineering enablement, and leadership roles with extensive outreach and external engagement. You started working at the Bank of England and then on to a CTF winner. And she's currently Director Solutions Engineering EMEA at SonicWall. Did I miss anything that we should mention here, Katie? Please.
No, I think that's enough. It just seems to get longer all the time, so it gets a bit much. But yes, all good. Thank you.
Perfectly good. Something you'd like to speak about SonicWall, because I'm leaving that part for your, inputs for the audience.
Sure. So SonicWall, I've been here for just over a year and a half now, and I head up the solutions engineering team, as you said, for EMEA. So that covers Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And SonicWall, we're a global business, over 1,000 employees, and we've been around for over 30, I think it's now 32 years. So we're a veteran of this industry, and we're going through a period of relentless change at the moment as well. So we've had recent acquisitions at the start of this year for our managed services offering, as well as our what we now call Cloud Secure Edge, which is our ZTNA CASB offering too. So really our portfolio spans beyond the firewalls that everyone knows us for, and there's so much more that we can offer.
Interesting. Maybe some of it can be covered in the questions which we'll be asking you now. Mm-hmm. So my first question to you is, with today's dynamic nature of cyber threats, as you just mentioned, what would be your single most critical advice for optimal security initiatives? I say optimal because there are no absolute security initiatives.
Yes.
Right. So as a cybersecurity expert, your opinion, please.
Of course. So I'll be a bit not controversial here, but I get asked this a lot when I do interviews, and it's a great question. There's a lot of ways you can approach it, but I think in the industry we're in, everything is changing, but by minute, by the second, there's new threats. And now with the surgence of AI coming into play, if you're managing to go a day about in your lives where you're not hearing about AI, I think you need to wake up a bit. We cannot not hear about AI from the attacker's perspective and from defense now. But what I would say, and I hold this true from talks I've done years ago through to now, is that the core fundamentals of your security posture need to remain. So covering your patching, vulnerabilities, those are the really key things. That all the other fancy stuff that's coming with AI, fine. But if you're not, patch management, vulnerability management, user and access management, posture checking of devices, everything else will just crumble down. The new shiniest thing won't function and be successful if the core elements are lacking or missing. So stick to the basics, and the rest will be more successful along the way.
Right. So given the current trends and organizational vulnerabilities, what do you think are the areas of priority for investment for CISOs? And since they obviously have to justify it to the CFO for the ROI and all of those purposes, what would you think they put right at the top?
What would I put at the top? I think I'd caveat it with saying there needs to be headroom in the budget and how you prioritize. So trying to budget for cybersecurity, if you're expected to give an annual budget or a semi-annual budget, is really, really difficult. As we said, the threat landscape is constantly changing. What may be really important one day could change the following week. There may be a 0 day that comes out. So I think it's key to remember that with budget allocation and on the CISO's to-do list or priority list, keep to the core elements still, but allow room to expand within the business to go to a risk-based budget allocation. It's not foolproof, but it's definitely a great way of going about measuring the business's appetite for certain risks. As a CISO, you probably lay awake at night worrying about all sorts of things. You can't manage everything, but there are some key areas, ransomware, phishing, cryptojacking. They will not go away. They will change. They will come and go in peaks and flows. In our recent threat report update, we've actually seen a decrease in some areas, but an increase in others. That's just like the tide. It will come and go. So ensuring there's budget allocated to manage that and to keep hold of security personnel that are really, really valuable to your business. So you can have all the tools, etc. But if you're losing staff who know the business, they know the politics around the business and the history, make sure there's budget there to retain that talent and develop it, because they, combined with your tools, really are what make you more successful and more secure.
So when you say business risks, are you also talking about the compliance issues that you might face, or are you only talking about loss in terms of, maybe customer data or enterprise data or whatever? Does it also cover compliance?
All of it, yes. So again, if you're in a regulated industry, there will be new regulations that you need to abide by that will come through, that you're measured against. If you're looking towards cyber insurance as well, that's a massive, massive cost to the business. And again, the underwriting to that and what's covered is changing rapidly in the cyber insurance world. So don't just assume that by purchasing cyber insurance, you're inherently just secure against any kind of attack in any capacity. The way that the coverage and the way you validate yourself for that coverage is changing because of the market that we're in. So there's the compliance side, there's business risk, there's loss, reputation. If there's a breach, for some companies, their reputation is everything. That can be massively damaged. And again, how do you quantify that in terms of money? Is difficult, but again, if it's approached in a risk-based approach and there's a risk register for the company, you can then align your budget equally to that and have it agreed, across the board or across the investors.
Right. But do you think that implementing a risk-based approach to budget allocation is the smartest way forward, or it has to be a combination of a little bit of preparedness and then, risk? So your opinion on that?
Yeah. So I think risk-based is a great start if you're not sure what to do or you're not sure how to start looking at it. Budget is, it's the B word. It's the word that comes up once a year. People never feel positive when it comes to budget. The business is having to hand out money. They obviously don't want to spend more than they need to. And in the security department or in the industry that we're in, we're seeing everything as a threat and we're aware of how the landscape changes. So to marry the two together, to speak in the board's language, which is financials, is the only way really to quantify it. So align your budget with your risks, especially if there are key areas of risk that may repeat annually that need to be taking up a big portion of the budget, and then allow headroom for the things that come in that can't be predicted, can't be controlled, but may need addressing, and substantially it may cost more when they do happen. So risk-based is a really good start, but it's not the be-all and the end-all to budgeting. I think there's a lot of factors within a business that need to come into play. Use statistics from the industry. There's great reports out there that talk about certain threats. It could be, and it's often the case, the board are not cybersecurity pros. They're not reading the news that we're seeing. They're just seeing headlines and other types of media outlets. So apply the news that you hear to the business for your industry, etc., or where you may have been vulnerable, if it was a 0-day or a vulnerability that was exploited, and line that back to the business, and then align it to the cost or the loss that would have been incurred.
So we've spoken about technology, though I had one more out of curriculum kind of question.
Sure.
So these new AI regulations in EU, are they going to impact the use of AI for cyber security in the coming months, years? What do you think about that?
So I think it's good that these are coming into play. Back to what I said at the start about this shift, new technologies and AI, it's a very exciting time and people are not jumping on the bandwagon, but they want to be involved and they're trying to push their businesses other departments towards using AI, but I do think it needs to be measured. It's a measured approach, and it needs to be not risk-based, but used in a way that it's not all just sunshine and rainbows. It could go wrong. The data or the information you're putting into these models, where is that going? Don't just assume you're uploading it to get something out and it's going to be useful. Think about the environment, the data you're sharing into these tools, etc., and where that's actually going, because you could lose valuable, intellectual property, etc. So I think having regulations around AI is really good. I think it may be like kind of trying to herd cats at times as well. I think as AI just expands into, everything we touch, every technology, not yet, but it's coming, it may be harder to pull the reins in around it and control it more. But I think having the regulations out now has a firm show to any area of the business, but especially cyber, that this is here, we're trying to manage it, but it will change, I think, as AI itself develops and becomes more and more part of our everyday lives.
And now to a topic which, we speak with so many leaders all the time: security leaders, enterprise technology leaders, marketing leaders, not many women. So we will now, I would, really want to ask you about what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a woman in technology, and then cyber technology, because there are some very aggressive facets to being a cybersecurity leader. Did you face any of those challenges? And if you did, then how did you manage to get past them?
Sure. So my entry into cyber was really quite not accidental, but I started off when I was at the Bank of England. I worked in various roles there. The one before cybersecurity was in the digital media team, so running the website, social media, and so on. And naturally, analytics and statistics is usually a way that women naturally fall into. We've got the eye for detail. We're not bothered by looking through loads of data manually to look for anomalies. And it's very easy to get pocketed into that. The only way I ended up in the cyber investigations role was through chance of understanding that department was growing within the bank. So yes, it was one building, but not everyone knows what goes on all the different floors, etc. So it just out of interest, and I reached out to the hiring manager. On paper, I was way off from any of the requirements or certifications. I don't have a degree in anything. I left school with my A-levels only. So there I was, just showing an interest to the hiring manager that I quite like cyber. I'm quite into it. Outside of work, I do things in that respect, self-learning and so on. And I was given a chance, and that's where, honestly, from there on is where it went. But I know that that's very fortunate. It's not often offered out. And what you said about, barriers and things you experience, all the media imagery on cyber is men with hoodies hunched over a laptop in the dark. That's not really what it looks like. Boards no longer are all men. There are more women that are slowly appearing on senior leadership boards and panels. So it's a shift, and I think with the generational shift, this is coming more. We're seeing more women leaders. But honestly, I think I just got lucky just by showing an interest to the right individual. So if the right person out there is looking for someone to join a team, they may not, marry up with every single requirement on the job spec. A lot of the ones you see on LinkedIn are just bullet points of qualifications, entry-level roles asking for 10 years of experience with things that haven't even been around for 5 years. It's becoming a bit of a minefield. So my biggest piece of advice would be, you have nothing to lose when you apply for a job, or you reach out to the person hiring, start the conversation. They may begin to like you as an individual. They might keep you in mind for other roles. You've got nothing to lose ultimately. And if it's a genuine interest, it does come across when you speak to people. People that I meet at trade shows, you always get students who come around, asking for jobs. You can see the ones who are just farming out CVs, but you see the others who are really invested, and they're keen and hungry to learn, and they're looking for this step on their road in cyber. But yeah, being the woman or the only woman on training courses, historically I've had that. You naturally step back, you quieten yourself because you stand out from the others. So I think it's a confidence thing as well. And that comes with age. When I was younger, I wasn't as confident. I would never, raise my voice or speak out or ask a question. Now, difficult to get me to stop talking, but that comes with time and experience. So I think, honestly, if you get a great mentor or a great manager to help guide you, that is worth its weight in the time you spend in that. But I think it's all about luck and just finding those opportunities that you can just insert yourself into.
So, for other young women, and personally, I don't think that in a position that is as professional as yours, the gender should really matter.
Mhm.
But would there still be, and as you just said, women are more conscious about eye for detail and analyzing data more than anything else. So, what do you think are the biggest strengths that women would bring to cybersecurity careers, cybersecurity specifically, not just information technology? Is there
So
anything that women can do better?
I think just because we just see the world in a different way, like down to, prehistoric times and how we respond to danger and all this stuff. If you read, there's loads of studies into cavemen, cavewomen, and how they perceive noise and all of that. So yes, a lot of cybersecurity, some aspects, SOC-based roles, 24/7. It's very, very high pressure, etc. There's alerts, there's dashboards with big red, flashing lights. The way that a woman sees that dashboard is genuinely different to how a man does, just how we perceive the world around us. So I think there's just a balance to be struck. Historically, cyber has come out of being an IT area, which was obviously heavily male dominated. Bringing women in is changing things, a different review of, the structure of jobs, what we're asking people to do, how we rate performance, how we hire. Having women on panels when it's interviews and things like that is encouraging to get more women in. We see the world differently. We have a different voice. At conferences, if you're the woman speaker, people naturally remember you more. So companies, get out there, get your women as your speakers, because instantly the attendees remember them more than they remember another guy in a suit, because it just looks like everybody else. So there's a lot of differentials we can bring.
That's a very interesting viewpoint. I completely agree with you, though. But so this is all I had to ask you. Is there anything you would like to add in terms of what to expect from the cybersecurity industry over the next year or so, apart from AI tools playing a bigger and a more significant role? Is there anything else that we can look forward to? Just
Look
as an
forward to,
offhand
or to be
opinion.
worried about. I mean, it could go
Yes.
either way, but I think, and as I said before, and I say this like a parrot whenever I get the outlet to, always stick to the fundamentals. So just because all these fancy things are coming along, keep to the fundamentals of things. Like if everyone's moving to the cloud, which we're seeing more and more, make sure that's done securely. Having a cloud environment just doesn't inherently mean it's secure and it's someone else's problem. Manage your permissions, least privilege access for your users, reviewing the security settings, reviewing anything that's vulnerable. Where's the data going in, out? Is it protected in transit? The cloud adoption's good. It's been pushed more by the hybrid working mode following COVID as well. But actually, let's make sure these clouds are secure, because it's often that people just push to the cloud adoption, and assume that everything is taken care of for them. And it's not. It is still your task to make sure you secure it, especially if you're handling your own data and data for other companies. So cloud is a big thing, I would say, to focus on. And just back to the fundamentals, patch management and vulnerabilities. If you have a vulnerability, you're open and you're exposed. No matter how many tools you have, you've allowed that gap in the landscape, in your environment. People are going to get in, and there's no fancy anything that can stop that. Just cover it, fix the vulnerability, and then you've taken care of that one entry point for that day or until the next one comes along.
So that should be it. And thank you so much for your time, Katie.
Thank you
Really
for having
appreciate
me.
it early in the
Thank
morning.
you. Thank
Thanks.
you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being with us. Please do follow us on social media for regular updates and new content.